A very good day to all of you out there. Um, a very warm welcome to you, Pranav. Thank you for joining us. And once again, a very, very big congratulations for achieving that dream 740. Every GMAT aspirant uh, dreams of achieving it one way or the other. We'll just wait for a little bit for more viewers, our viewers to join up. There are some out there. Guys, we would love to hear a hello from your end. And let's start the interview by asking Pranav to share with us his journey till 740. From a
Mhm.
690 to a 740 in what I believe was less than a month, more or less.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, ma'am. Thanks for your wishes. Then, yeah, absolutely. It was a wonderful feeling watching that 740 flash across the screen, especially since I got a 690 at the first try. I'd expected much more,
Mhm.
and yeah, the entire journey. I'd actually devoted 2 months of for my second attempt. But in the first month, I couldn't really devote enough time, so that left me with virtually just 1 month to prepare and get it done with. So yeah, it was really, it demanded a lot from me, but
Mhm.
this time I made certain changes. There were
Great.
certain changes that I had to bring into my preparation strategy, and not just that. This time, despite the fact that I knew that I'd virtually have just 1 month, I kind of toned my anxiety problems down. Anxiety was a big factor in my anxiety, and a lack of preparation, a lack of an appropriate prep strategy affected me, and I think anxiety was a byproduct of that. So
So when you say,
that
Pranav, that lack of strategy affected
Mhm.
you badly, and that culminated into those panic or anxiety that you felt for the exam. So when you say strategy, what strategy are we talking about? Because from what I know, you had earlier also prepared for GMAT, before your first attempt. I think you took there were some other sources that you used. So, what was different from what you did then? And when you talk about strategy, what was these strategies that you think you found at GMATWhiz and which were lacking earlier?
Actually, for my first attempt, I prepared a lot, I'd say, because I was devoting 6 to 7 hours a day,
Okay.
and I did that for, let's say, 50 days. So
Oh my
that
God. All
that
right.
equates to
7 hours
300
a
hours.
day, 50 days. All
Yeah, I
right.
mean that's 6 hours. 6 hours on average. On some days, I'd go for 7. Now the problem is my strategy was purely a brute force strategy. I would work. I would just keep doing questions, keep solving. I was done with my. I I'd used I'd use the services of Magoosh for my first attempt, and in my first attempt, I could clearly see that. I mean, now that I look back at my first attempt, I can reflect on a lot of things that didn't go according to plan, and especially with respect to my prep, I'd say I kept doing questions of the same type. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
what I did in my first attempt was I didn't focus that much on what areas were strong, what were weak. I just kept doing questions. My focus was on completing my course, and it was on solving as many questions as I possibly could. So when I switched to GMATWhiz, first of all, the Whiz robot was a big help to me because it pinpointed my strengths and my weaknesses. Now, generally, people use error logs to do that, but I guess I'm a bit lazy, so I didn't maintain a good error log.
All right.
So yeah, the Whiz really helped me in that sense because it pinpointed my strengths and weaknesses effectively, and that allowed me to concentrate on make on removing any weaknesses, and as far as strengths are concerned, devoting time but not devoting as much as I did in the first attempt.
Okay. So you're saying that the 6, 7 hours that you needed to spend earlier, you actually
Yeah,
didn't have to do that much this time
exactly.
around.
I
All right.
Yeah, because for my second attempt, even though I prepared for a month, I did not devote more than 5 hours a day. My average was 4, because this time I was satisfied. I knew that my strong points were being addressed. They didn't need any improvement as such. And as far as my weak points were concerned, yeah, I was working on them and I was seeing results.
Can you give us
More
an
and more.
example of how the AI-driven platform at GMATWhiz kind of helped you to pinpoint your weak areas? Can you just give us an example, taking up maybe let's say verbal, or by the way, you scored a verbal 40, I guess, so that was definitely an achievement. For those of you out there, Pranav scored a Q50 and a verbal 40. So we would like to hear from you an example of how the AI-driven platform helped you, overcome your weak areas.
Yeah. So basically, um, even though I got a Q49 on my first attempt, I wasn't satisfied because according to my prep, I should have gotten a Q50 or a Q51. Now, Q49 means that you're making more than 5 or 6 mistakes at least. And that was a worrying point because, see, 5 or 6 mistakes is a lot. You have 31 questions and you're making 5 or 6 mistakes. So, with the Viz, it pinpointed areas like inequalities, which was a weak point. So I wouldn't get those questions wrong. Then number properties, where I wasn't focusing on certain cases, like let's say you have to consider all kinds of numbers, and I'm not considering negative fractions between 0 and 1. So because of that, I lose. Because of that, I'm effectively not considering one test case, and my solution is wrong on data sufficiency. So that in those areas it helped. And also with the Viz, this is purely for quant. For verbal, it helped me pinpoint the average amount of time that I was spending per question, which was a lot in critical reasoning. I mean, in sentence correction, it was around it was from 1 minute to 1 minute 15 seconds. But in critical reasoning, it was 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and that was bad. So I had to work on that, and the Viz helped me pinpoint those areas. And not just that, even in critical reasoning, it showed me that I was purely struggling with strengthen, with weaken. So those are things where the Viz really helped me.
So Pranav, just falling back on what you were saying earlier, that earlier when you were preparing, when you were using another source and you were preparing, you were solving a lot of questions. Okay, so what was it different about? And you did solve questions even when you took up the GMATWhiz platform, right? But then what was different in your preparation earlier on, apart from the hours and the solving of questions? And this time around, what was it differently that you were doing when you were practicing these questions? In what way was your preparation different this time as far as approach to the questions is concerned? If you talk about verbal first, say for example.
Sure. So for verbal, my main weakness that had to be addressed was critical reasoning. In fact, when I was analyzing when Piyush sir helped me analyze my ESR showed my sentence correction percentile was in the 91st percentile. Reading comprehension was 78th percentile, and critical reasoning was 5th percentile. So that was
Fifth percentile. Oh my
fifth
God.
percentile. It was really bad. It was almost as if the critical reasoning gods had just given up on me in that day.
Okay.
So this time, as far as approaching questions is concerned, for critical reasoning, my approach was not just on figuring out what is the right answer, but also what are the wrong options and why they're properly and definitively wrong. In
So
for
this
my
was
first
something that you were
attempt,
not doing earlier.
yeah, for my first attempt, I was purely focused on finding the right answer. And even after getting the question right, my once I got the question right, I didn't care much about the question. I was like, yeah, it's a right. I got it right. No need to analyze it further. But that's a big problem. That's a big mistake, to be honest. As far as critical reasoning is
Thank you for
concerned.
sharing that, Pranav, and pointing that out. Please continue.
Yeah, exactly. Because critical reasoning needs you to analyze all five answers. Because see, if you approach it from let's say a non-test taker's perspective, you could make a case for all five options, which is why they're there. But you need to analyze the questions from a test taker's mindset. You don't need to analyze it from let's just say your gut or what your gut feeling is. You need to go deeper into that.
So
So
you're saying that you need to know exactly why you are eliminating a choice
yes,
and
yes,
exactly why a choice is correct. This
yes,
is You're placing them in
exactly.
proper buckets, you're saying. Okay.
Exactly, ma'am. And once after you get the question right, understanding why the other options were wrong is also an important thing. For example, this time while practicing, let's say I was dicey about a question. I couldn't choose between three options, so in order to save time, I just went with one of the three. So this
Hmm.
time it's important to realize why the question, even if you get it right, it's important to realize why the other two options were wrong, were definitively wrong, and not just why the correct option alone was right. So
So,
that's
in
another
what
thing.
way did GMAT platform help you to do this? How did the GMAT platform help you to understand what you were doing right or what you were doing wrong? Like, did you go to the
Mainly, mainly in
solutions?
my first attempt, like I said, I was following a very gut feeling based approach,
Hmm.
if that's how I can put it, for my CR questions. But for this attempt, GMATWhiz gave me a framework to approach CR questions.
Can
For
you
inference
elaborate on
based
that a bit, please? The
exactly. So
framework.
for yeah, sure, ma'am. So for inference based questions, GMATWhiz's solutions or gave me insights into what the stimulus expects you to understand or infer from individual sentences and not just the paragraph as a whole. So it helps you to so while breaking it down, it helps supplement your understanding in a sense. And for assumption based questions, obviously I didn't believe in the pre-thinking strategy, because again I just went with the face value of the word pre-thinking. Now
Okay.
pre-thinking, in my opinion, for the first attempt was basically just predicting the answer out of the blue. Now that's not
Okay.
something I was comfortable with. So
Okay.
when I spoke to Piyush sir uh, after my first attempt, he explained what pre-thinking, or at least GMAT-Viz's approach to pre-thinking was all about. It was about developing a framework, essentially providing you with a method to approach those questions and to nail them perfectly. So this is what really helped me. That framework based methodical approach, that was crucial for me. uh,
And was that framework? So when you say frameworks, can you just quickly give an example of, okay, this framework would help you pre-think?
Yeah, sure, exactly. So let's say we have an assumption question about, let's say, this is company X. They plan on doing this, and then you have to spot the assumption. So with that, you have to what the framework essentially told me was: first step, go through the stimulus, break it down, understand what you can. Second step is, now here's a plan, here's a company, that's its plan. So identify the plan, then identify the goal, then identify the connection between the two. And not just the connection, the essential connection. So that really helped me. Now, when I would go through the options, I'd essentially have two or three strong solutions in my head, which would be reflected in the answer choices. So that was really good.
So you were able to actually pre-think effectively without putting too much of effort into the so-called pre-thinking. That's what you're saying. The frameworks help you to align your way of
Yeah,
thinking.
exactly. It helped direct my thoughts in a certain direction, because without that framework, I'd be pre-thinking about all sorts of things. Now, the example that I mentioned was rather simplistic. Obviously, it was much more nuanced than that, but it's been 3 months since I took the
Right,
GMAT.
right.
So
And
kind of.
how about the RCs and RC and SC? Like I'm sure with the 740, you must have developed in those areas as well.
Yep. So, like I mentioned, on my ESI after the first attempt, my SC was in the 91st percentile. So, SC wasn't something that I devoted a lot of time on, but I still completed all of the modules and all of the questions. It was it was something that when I took my first cold mock, SC was something that came naturally to me because I read a lot.
Okay.
So yeah, for SC, I didn't put in that much of an effort as compared to CR, because with CR, I was solving not just the modules and the questions with GMATWhiz, I was always also supplementing it with questions from GMAT Club. But with SC, I just did the questions on GMATWhiz. And yeah, the difficulty level of the questions was good. It was much better than the Magoosh
You like
sentence construction
the
questions.
questions were more representative of the actual exam
Yeah,
questions.
actually,
That's what you're saying.
that's what I felt, because Magoosh's questions felt easier to approach. I would spend about 45 seconds to 65 seconds on a Magoosh sentence correction question. But with
Hmm.
GMATWhiz, you'd have to think more. You'd have to understand the
So they
sentence, the
were
meaning
more
of the
meaning
sentence.
driven. Right,
Exactly.
right, right. And what about, so let's quickly touch upon RC as well.
Mhm.
What was it different with RCs when we talk about reading and comprehension? You've already done that at Magoosh. What was different with GMAT? How did that help you improve your RC performance?
Well, with Magoosh, the RC course felt a bit dry, to be honest. They'd explain some things, and then they'd bring out one example and they'd use it for all different types of questions. So it was one RC stimulus and they'd use it for different types of questions, and that felt kind of redundant in my opinion. And not just that, the RC approach in Magoosh didn't help me much. I still relied on LSAT passages from GMAT Club to improve. So that was another thing. With GMATWhiz, the RC approach, they had a defined approach to RCs. Active reading, involved reading, important breakpoints. So that helped. Important points where you had to stop and just take a look and just I'm sorry, important
No, no,
points
no.
where you
Yeah, you were talking about the involved and evolved reading, and that
yeah,
gave you an
exactly.
approach how to read the sentences. All right.
Mhm. Yeah, so that and analyzing what you've done and basically not being readers, not being a passive reader, to be honest. Because if you read passively, it's basically you spend 2 or 3 minutes on a passage and then at the end of it, you're like, what did I just read? What have I just
Okay, the
gone through?
recall factor. You couldn't recall what you had
Exactly.
read. Okay.
Exactly. So I remember Magoosh recommended skimming through the passage. It
Okay.
recommended building a mental map of points, that this
So it
is
was just the
this is going to be
opposite.
clear.
In fact, you're saying that just skim and read when it comes
Yes,
to Magoosh.
Magoosh recommended skimming, while I at GMATWhiz they recommended not to just skim but to read. Because if you look at it from an analytical perspective, even if you're spending 4 minutes per passage, but you have a clear idea of everything that's in the passage, then solving the questions becomes very easy. You don't need to go back to the passage and find that sentence again. So you can get done with, let's say, 4 or 5 questions in about 3 or 4 minutes. So that brings your overall time to 7 minutes, and you've solved 4 questions in that. So that's under 2 minutes per question. So
In fact, thank you so much for pointing that out, Pranav, because most of the time people think that one should quickly read the passage and get on with the questions because it is the questions that will bring the score. And they do not pay enough attention to the passage. So we've got a question here from, okay, intelligent investor saying that, Pranav, which course do you think is the best for quant for someone starting from scratch? So Pranav, you've already scored a Q50. Would you like to take that question?
yeah, definitely. I mean, intelligent investor, nice name. I'd say GMATWhiz has everything you need to succeed. I really love GMATWhiz because it built up everything from scratch. All the modules covered everything from scratch, and not just that, each module contains concept boosters, concept solidifiers, and then quizzes. So once you're going through a module, you essentially solidify all your concepts. GMATWhiz is a course that will work for everyone. If you're looking for improvement in quant, it'll work for you. If you're like me and you're looking for improvement solely in verbal, it'll work for you. If you're starting from scratch, it'll work for you because it's a comprehensive course.
So,
So I
talking
think
about a comprehensive course, Pranav, just quickly, so that kind of for a lot of our viewers who want to know, I mean, I'm just kind of taking what intelligent investor here is asking forward. That a lot of people want to know that what is it different between some other courses out there in the market, and when you talk about GMAT Whiz, all right, how would you kind of compare the two things for any student, whether somebody is a retaker or somebody is a fresher? How would you compare the two courses and you would believe that GMATWhiz would bring out the best in you? What are the things that you think GMATWhiz would do for that student?
see, I mean, there are 2 or 3 things that set GMATWhiz apart from the competition, and that is first of all the Viz, then the Viz mentorship program. You can connect with your mentors, and you can iron out your
Can
flaws
you
and your weaknesses.
elaborate a little bit on that, Pranav? Quickly, just quickly, like
Sure.
when we
In
talk
the
about
mentorship
mentorship.
program, it allows you to schedule meetings with your mentors about anything, and then not just that, in those meetings you can address your weaknesses, and your mentors literally guide you through the process. They guide you through questions. So it's essentially like you're having a teacher teach you everything, a one
So
on
this is
one.
even when you took an online course, you took the online prep, and despite the online prep, a mentor is assigned to you, right? And then you can actually interact with somebody real. That's what you're saying,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I didn't make the most of it because I was facing a time crunch, to be honest. But I did interact with Shreyas sir once. He really helped me out with my conundrum, to be honest, because at one point of time I was getting really dicey whether I should take the GMAT or not. So he helped clear out my doubts then. So
So
that's the
you
thing.
don't just
What
have a
sets
mentor, you
GMAT?
also have a motivator.
Yeah, I mean, they do everything, don't they? they
Wonderful.
that's what mentors are for. They
Yes.
help you with your weaknesses. They help you regain your motivation if you've lost it. So yeah, a comprehensive course. And not just that, like I mentioned, the modules, they have everything in of for example, I took Magoosh. So in Magoosh, they have their module and it's video after video after video after video. In GMATWhiz, it's you have one maximum two videos, and then after that you have a concept booster file. Then maybe after two or three videos or one or two videos, you have a concept solidifier file. So as you're going, all those concepts that you've just studied are being reinforced effectively. So yeah, that was one thing that I
Okay.
really liked about the modules
Wonderful.
and the way they're
Wonderful.
structured.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for that. So, again, before we sign off from all this, so what would be your advice to all the aspirants out there? There are two levels that I would like you to kind of give the advice on. One is regards the preparation, what are the things they should not do and what are the things they should do, and second is with regards to the exam itself. You mentioned earlier that you had that anxiety feeling during your first attempt. So what should a student do in the exam and what should a student do during the prep? If you could tell our listeners out there, it would help them.
Sure. So the do's and don'ts during the prep stage. First of all, the do's would be I'll start with the don'ts actually.
Yeah, I think
Do
that would be
not
better.
do not spend 6 to 7 hours preparing for this. It literally burns you out after a certain point of time. So do not do that. Then secondly, do not try and focusing as many questions as possible. Try and focus on getting the methodology or the strategy of solving those questions. Focus on a very direct on a very focused preparation strategy. Do not deviate into different directions. That would be my advice, because with me there were multiple questions. Okay, fine. Let's do critical reasoning right now, and then let's do sentence correction one day, and then math. It was all very messed up. So create a proper focus schedule and follow that, and do not devote 6 to 7 hours a day. Then secondly, do not use a brute force approach. Try not to solve as many questions as you can. Try to focus on getting the method of solving those questions right, because at the end of the day, this is an exam that focuses more on efficiency. I mean, there is obviously a special emphasis on accuracy. Without accuracy, you're nowhere. But it also places a premium on efficiency. So getting the efficiency part is also right. Now, coming to the do's part of your prep, whatever it is, even when you're low on motivation, do not skip a day of preparation. Even if you do not feel like studying anything, devote at least an hour. So it'll keep you in touch, so that you don't and see what happens essentially is, if you take one day's break, it kind of creates a domino effect into a break of 2 days and 3 days, and then all of a sudden you're losing motivation. It spirals out of control, to be honest. So that's the thing. I mean, focus on keep doing something. That's what I'd say. And then do's and don'ts during the exam: do not get bogged down by anxiety, because at that point of time, if you let anxiety get the better of you, then you're your own worst enemy. You're you're literally cutting your branch off with an axe, because the exam is challenging enough. You do not have to create an additional challenge for yourself. And
What do you think will help a student keep that anxiety at bay? Because this is something that, I'm sure everybody listening out there would be facing at one point or the other if they are retakers, that during the exam you become anxious. So, any mental preparation you think that can help a student tackle that anxiety?
I mean, try and meditate, try and chill out with people, with friends. Do not cut yourself off from the world, because I had a senior who tried to do that. He just cut himself from his friends. He would only respond to essential texts on WhatsApp, and he has also plateaued around at a 690, 700, when his target is a 760.
So, need to
So
stay human.
yeah,
That's what
stay
you're
human.
saying.
Exactly. I mean, you do not need to become a robot. Watch your TV shows. Keep watching TV series. Devote 3, 4, maximum 5 hours a day, max to max. Although I'd suggest 4 hours are enough. 4 hours a day for 1 month, I think that should be enough. Chill out, watch your TV shows. Even if you devote 4 hours, you're still left with 20 hours to do whatever you want. So get enough sleep. Stay human. Do not
So,
go insane
basically,
over GMAT.
so yeah, I think that's a very sound advice, not going insane over an exam. So what you're saying is, in terms of preparation, one should not think of the number of hours one is spending or the number of questions one is solving, right? That should not be the focus. Rather, according to you, whatever number of hours, say 3 hours, 4 hours, they should be quality time spent on understanding the methodology that you're going to use to solve the questions. And would you suggest definitely to have to have a go-to place where you can have proper solutions laid out for you that would help you understand what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong? You would definitely suggest that, I guess, Pranav, right?
Yes,
So one should have
definitely.
a methodology and one should focus on that rather than just focus on the number of questions.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry I couldn't put it in better words myself,
No,
but
no, I got
that's
it. I
exactly
got it. And
what I
I'm
would
sure
say.
everybody listening out there, Dinesh, Ashish, Intelligent Investor, Rix, a lot of them are congratulating you. So I'm sure they
Thank
are
you
also listening
much.
and they understand that as a student, as an aspirant, the anxiety, they definitely understand that. All right. So that would be your advice to people who are aspiring to take this, that to select a course. Like what kind of course would you ask them to select? Like it doesn't have to be a GMAT whiz, but then what kind of course would you kind of advise them to take up?
See, I mean, for that, one thing that I didn't do at the start, when I was just a fresher, to be honest, I didn't have any idea about the GMAT. When I was just flying into the dark, I
Mhm.
purchased the Magoosh subscription, because it was valid for 12 months and it was the most affordable one on the market.
Mhm.
And a couple of people had recommended it to me.
So you hadn't done much
I,
research, you said.
yeah, I
You
hadn't done
mean to
much
say?
research. And I think that was I think that was not something I would do with the benefit of hindsight. What I would do essentially is I would first take a cold mock, um, which is in the OG, or the one of the free mocks on GMAT Prep. You could take a cold mock, analyze your weaknesses and your strengths, and then take a demo version of all the courses that are being offered. See which one aligns best your um, with your direction, or with your weaknesses. Which course addresses your weaknesses in the best
Right.
possible manner, and then yeah, select that. But again, my personal recommendation would be to go for GMATWhiz, because it works for quant and it works for verbal. And not just that, I mean, there are no chinks as far in the armor as far
Right.
as GMATWhiz is
Thank
concerned.
you for that vote of confidence, Pranav. With that score, I'm sure you're now applying to all your dream schools. So, any a quick just what schools you're applying for to?
Yeah, I will be applying for a master's in management program after I'm done with. I'm still in my third year in BTech,
Okay, you have the
so
score valid. All right. Okay,
I have
good.
my score valid for 5 years. So I'll be applying. I'll be applying for an MIM at HEC Paris, ESCP
Okay.
Europe, ESSEC France, basically 2 year programs, so that I get to know more. And I don't have a lot of work experience, so these are programs that offer a lot of internship experience, and they have a big network that I can tap into.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
So just let's answer this. So intelligent investor, again, to carry forward what you were saying, Pranav, he's confused between eGMAT and GMATWhiz. Um, Again, as a very impartial advisor, what would you tell intelligent investor here to do before he or she takes up any of those courses or any other course for that matter?
Yeah, I understand. This is a dilemma I faced as well after my first attempt. So what I would do is, um,
What
if you
made you
haven't
gravitate
watched
towards GMATWhiz?
a, a call
You
with
did your
Piyush, I
research, right?
scheduled. Yeah, I did my research this time. I scheduled a call with Piyush sir, and he explained what the GMATWhiz course was all about. He helped me analyze my ESR. He helped me pinpoint my weaknesses, and he also told me how GMATWhiz could help me conquer those. So you can do that. You can schedule a call with Piyush sir, and you can talk about that. And with EGMAT, I'm pretty sure they offer something like that, as maybe a demo call, or maybe a call, or maybe just try their demo version and see which one fits well. I mean, reading reviews on GMAT Club is will be absolutely essential. Try and focus on those areas that you really need to improve. Intelligent investor is starting off
So
as a
I have
fresher, or
actually
is
just
it
put the link to
retail?
schedule a call with Piyush, intelligent investor, if you're interested. You
Mhm.
can just use that link to schedule a call with Piyush. Yes, go ahead. Sorry, Pranav.
So yeah, I mean, if you're starting off as a fresher, then maybe take a cold mock and then analyze your strengths and weaknesses, and then according to that, purchase a demo version, talk to experts, talk to the people who know, and then yeah, they'll guide you through the process.
Thank you so much, Pranav, for all that insight. And I'm sure all of you out there who are listening, you have understood one thing very clearly, that it's not the number of questions you solve, not the number of hours that you put in. It's about the kind of quality that you bring to your preparation, the right methods, the right approaches, and the right guidance, of course. Definitely. So do your market research, guys. And that's it. So, Pranav, wishing you a very, 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 very bright future ahead.
Thank
Okay,
you, man.
keep up the spirit, whatever you, and I'm sure whatever you've learned through this journey of preparing for GMAT, this all the learning that you have derived will stay with you for life, and you'll keep shining bright like this, always overcoming hurdles. All right,
Thank you so much,
so
man.
take care,
Sure.
all the best, and thank you once again, Pranav, for joining us. Bye bye, have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you everybody out there for joining us. Have a nice day, all of you.